Hello. God damn it. Wait. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup. Is the show where we round up all of the news in the latest week of nerdy movies. I apologize. I made a promise. Nay, I made a pledge that I would be here every Friday doing the show, but life just got in the way, and it is what it is. You can't you can't help when life just decides to get in the way and punch you in the face and kick you in the nuts, and so it is what it is. But we're here on a Sunday. It's not like news drops over the weekend anyways, so really it's no harm no foul. Yeah, let's just jump into the show then. So first up we have Conan the Barbarian 3, I guess, is happening. Did they call it Conan 3, or did I just make that up? Anyways, it's a new Conan the Barbarian. It's coming from the Hollywood Reporter. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Christopher McQuarrie are ready to take a swing at relaunching the Conan the Barbarian franchise. McQuarrie, who has helmed the four most recent Mission Impossible films, is attached to write and direct King Conan for 20th Century Studios, the Hollywood Reporter has confirmed. Schwarzenegger would reprise his role as sword-wielding Conan the Barbarian, which became an early signature part for the star after he starred in the 1982 fantasy film of the same name and its 1984 sequel that brought the character created by author Robert E. Howard to the big screen. Schwarzenegger announced McQuarrie's involvement in the project over the weekend at the Arnold Sports Festival in Columbus, Ohio. Additionally, the star said that he has been talking to Dan Trachtenberg about returning to the Predator franchise that the filmmaker revived with 2022's Prey and last year's follow-up Predator Badlands. Schwarzenegger has also noted that he has received a script for Commando 2 that would see the actor return to the role of Colonel John Matrix that he originated in the 1985 action film. In teasing King Conan, Schwarzenegger told the crowd, it's a great story where Conan was 40 years king and he gets complacent, and now he gets forced out of the kingdom, slowly. Then there's conflict, of course, and then he somehow comes back, and then there's all kinds of madness and violence and magic and creatures. Now, of course, you have all the special effects, and the studio system has plenty of money to make those movies really big, so I'm looking forward to all of those projects. So, that was a lot. First of all, do I think that there's an audience for Conan in 2026? Not really. I mean, listen. Obviously, Christopher McQuarrie is the get old IP and do it new again and make $1 billion guy, right? I mean, we saw what he did with Top Gun Maverick, but I just don't know that Conan is the same in that I don't know that there's the same reverence that there is for Top Gun. I don't know that a new Conan movie is going to excite the older generation like Maverick excited the older generation, and I don't know if it's going to be fresh enough that newer generations are going to be into it like newer generations were into Top Gun. But I mean, would I be interested? Like, I've never watched a Conan the Barbarian movie, but like, if Christopher McQuarrie specifically directed a Conan movie, yeah, I would watch the older ones and I would be into it, but I'm also a movie guy, right? Like, that's something that I would do. I just don't know that there are that many of me, but we'll see. Christopher McQuarrie is obviously a director with a lot of clout right now. In fact, did he not direct F1 as well? F1 director. Oh no, Joseph Kosinski. Okay, wait. Am I... Oh, wait, did Christopher McQuarrie not... No, he didn't direct Top Gun. Hold on. Oh, Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun Maverick. I'm losing my mind. Yeah, what am I saying? Christopher McQuarrie did not direct Top Gun Maverick. Sorry. He directed the Mission Impossible movies with Tom Cruise. Okay, never mind. I'm an idiot. But, okay, regardless. I just don't know that... Like, Christopher McQuarrie is still a guy with a lot of clout. But not that much clout, probably, since the last two Mission Impossible movies. have underperformed. So yeah, I don't even know if this is gonna end up happening. But listen, I think if you do it for like, if you can manage to make this movie for like 60, 70, maybe $80 million, then I think you might have something. But like this idea that they're gonna throw $200 million at Conan the Barbarian, dubious to say the least. Now talking about Predator, that's a much more interesting conversation because Fox is already trying to revive the Predator franchise, and I would argue they've done so successfully. Like they've had successful streaming releases with Prey and Predator Killer of Killers, and their first foray into the theatrical marketplace with Predator Badlands. Like, I don't think that movie ended up making a massive profit, but I think it probably did good enough, and it was well liked enough that you would hope that they would see that as a success insofar as it is reviving the Predator IP. And so I think now would be the time to strike with bringing Arnold back in a Predator movie. The problem is, of course, going to be how exactly do you do that with an older Arnold Schwarzenegger? Because, like, Predator, Killer of Killers, spoiler alert for the end of that movie, they do reveal that young Arnold Schwarzenegger is, like, cryogenically frozen on the Predator ship. So, theoretically, you could have a movie where Arnold Schwarzenegger and a girl from a Native American girl from Prey, and what's his name, John Glover, I think, from Predator 2. Like, you could theoretically have a movie where they're uncryogenically frozen, or they're defrozen, or whatever the term is. But Arnold's obviously too old. But then it's like, do you de-age him? No, that would suck. I don't want to see a de-aged Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't know, man. It'll be curious to see what they do there. They obviously have a plan for that, so we're just gonna have to wait and see. And then Commando 2. I don't know anything about Commando. I don't care. All right, moving on. Johnny Dome says, Aaron might be the connection with Brainiac. He might be the reason things happen, or he might be the way we learn what happened. Yes, we'll get to the Lantern story later on, but I mean, James Gunn did say that the Lantern show is going to lead into the larger story of the DCEU in his initial presentation, so that would make sense that something in Lanterns and whatever the threat in that show is, it would make sense that would lead into Man of Tomorrow. But also, there's a lot of stuff from that presentation that hasn't come to fruition, so who knows? All right, next story. We got Sylvester Stallone. Speaking of old people coming back to old IP, Sylvester Stallone announced a new Rambo movie. So let's see what he has to say.
Hello, everyone. It's Sylvester Stallone here. As you know, Rambo has been a huge part of my life, my career. But there's more to the story. There's the prequel, the beginning, and that's what's coming your way. I will serve as executive producer on this origin story. I couldn't be more excited, and the action is coming your way. Thank you very much. See you in the theaters.
So that is very interesting because the drama around this project initially was that Stallone was being kind of iced out of the project in a sense where they were just making it without his involvement. And obviously a lot of, Stallone fans and Rambo fans are like, why? Like, why is this happening? There was also obviously drama around the last Creed movie that Michael B. Jordan directed that Stallone just wasn't involved with. So clearly he's been having, creative differences or whatever with the people working on his old IP. So I think it's a good thing that Stallone has managed to, come to terms with the people making this Rambo origin story. So we'll see. Hopefully Stallone fans and Rambo fans can get a movie that they like. Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm not. I'm much like Conan and Commando. This is just another 80s. Is it even an 80s thing or a 70s thing or a 90s thing that I just haven't seen because I'm not old. All right, next story. Okay, this is, ladies and gentlemen, this next story, remember to take it all with a grain of salt, okay? Take a little salt shaker, shake that shit in your mouth. Okay, don't. Okay, I don't know why I did that. My time to shine. Hello. So, I think it's a girl. I think this is my time to shine. Hello, a girl. I think she is. Anyways, she posted, Marvel Studios and Sony are interested in doing a Spider-Man and Wolverine movie. And then she posted this like AI image of Hubert Jackman and Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. It's like, okay. And then she quote tweeted saying, who should be the Spider-Man and who should be the Wolverine? So I don't really know what to make of this. Obviously, my time to shine hello is really just like one of these scooper people that like they've gotten stuff right in the past, but it's also one of those things where I don't know, whenever I see like anonymous Twitter scoop accounts, it's like I take the stories, I'm willing to discuss them on my channel, but I'm always just like, I'm not going to get invested in whatever the story is, or whatever or what the news is, and I'm not going to get excited or angry. So would I like to see a Spider-Man and Wolverine movie? Sure. Although, and I think this is an interesting discussion to have whether or not this is real. Because let's say it is real. Is there something to be said about Marvel Studios and Sony not thinking that Spider-Man is a cool enough character to hold up a movie on his own? Like, if we go all the way back to Spider-Man Homecoming, it's like, it's a Spider-Man movie. And we gotta have Iron Man in it. Okay. Spider-Man Far From Home, to be fair, I think we can all agree that was a movie held up by Spider-Man as a character, right? Like, sure, Nick Fury was there, but it's not like Nick Fury is a selling point. Secret Invasion. But then we get into Spider-Man No Way Home, and it's like, okay, like, we couldn't just get a Spider-Man movie. It's like, we have to have Tom Holland as Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and Benedict Cumberbatch. It's like, but okay, you're doing the whole multiverse thing. That's what Marvel is focusing on right now. Fair enough. Now we're getting into Spider-Man Brand New Day, and it's like, okay, can we just get a Spider-Man movie? But then we hear the reports and the rumors, and it's like, no, it's not just Spider-Man. Spider-Man needs to have the Hulk in it. He needs to have the Punisher, potentially Sadie Senka's Jean Grey or Gwen, and it's like, so Spider-Man still can't stand on his own. He has to have like X-Men in it and Punisher and all this other stuff in order to make people excited about his movie. And so I see this, right? I see the idea of a Spider-Man movie with Wolverine, and I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I wouldn't watch it or that I wouldn't get hyped about it, because I probably would. But I still just have the thing in my heart where I'm just like, can we just get a Spider-Man movie where Spider-Man is on his own and just being Spider-Man? Do we need to have all of these crossovers in order to make a Spider-Man movie exciting? And I will also say that from a business perspective, yeah, probably. Because I also think that this is a Spider-Man No Way Home problem. Because Spider-Man No Way Home made $1.9 billion. The unfortunate reality is that has now created an unreasonable bar for Spider-Man movies. right? Like Tom Holland on his own Spider-Man movie, that's just a normal Spider-Man movie, is not going to sniff $1.9 billion. So I think that's also the reason why we're getting Spider-Man Brand New Day, where it's Spider-Man and the Hulk and Punisher and Jean Grey and X-Men stuff. And I also think that's why we would end up getting a Spider-Man and Wolverine team-up movie. Because we saw what Deadpool and Wolverine did. Like, that would be a movie that would rival the $1.9 billion of Spider-Man No Way Home. So, I don't know. Those are just my thoughts that are sprinkling around. Now, obviously, it's a completely different story if we're talking about a Tobey Maguire and Wolverine team-up movie. Like, that could be a fun movie that kind of stands on its own outside of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. But then even then, that's like an interesting situation of like, would Marvel Studios and Sony want to do that? Like, would they want to make a competing live action Spider-Man movie that competes with the Tom Holland stuff? I don't know. My guess is, and it's just my guess is that Marvel and Sony would not want to do a Tobey Maguire and Hugh Jackman movie. My assumption is that if they were to do a Spider-Man and Wolverine movie, I think it would be Tom Holland teaming up with whoever the new Wolverine is that gets introduced after Secret Wars. Whoever the new Wolverine is in the new rebooted X-Men franchise, I think that would be the team-up movie. Because also, isn't the rumor that Secret Wars is going to kind of put a cap on the multiverse stuff? But who knows? This story might not even be true. Again, take it with a grain of salt. But it is an interesting thought exercise. All right. Next up, let's talk about a turbulent start and meeting with Warner Brothers execs by David Ellison. Can we just talk about how David Ellison looks awful in every single picture that I see of the guy? Listen, I say this as somebody that also looks awful, but my God, David. But I don't know. I don't have that much to say about this, but I did see people talking about it. So let's just get into some of the stuff here, right? Let's see. What did I want to talk about here exactly? Okay, so first of all, it should be noted that I forgot to highlight this. Sporting jeans and a dark polo t-shirt, Ellison spoke for about 45 minutes in person to senior leadership, about 150 staffers in the Lots Stephen J. Ross Theater. In attendance were motion picture heads Pamela Abdy and Michael DeLuca, Warner Brothers TV Group Chief Channing Dungey, HBO's Casey Bloys, head of streaming J.B. Perrett, and DC Studios co-head Peter Safran, among others. More than 300 executives watched via a webcast from U.S. and international locations. So one of the things that I immediately saw coming off of this this meeting that happened was a bunch of people were like, oh my God, James Gunn didn't attend. That must mean that he's leaving his position because he doesn't want to work with David Ellison, or that must mean that David Ellison is going to fire James Gunn. And I just don't think that this is indicative of any of those things. Like, I think that James Gunn is probably deep in preparation for Man of Tomorrow, and he didn't feel the need to attend this, right? That's one of the reasons why he is co-CEO with Peter Safran. It's because James Gunn can kind of go into hiding and work on movies and artistic stuff while Peter Safran does all the boring normal studio executive stuff. So again, James Gunn may or may not end up leaving Warner Brothers or leaving Paramount, but I don't think that this is indicative of any of that. But I do think it's interesting to just talk about and a bit more broadly about the merger and about some of the reactions to David Ellison in his first meeting with Warner Brothers executives. So this is some stuff that I highlighted. Many in the room were hoping to hear of a plan moving forward or clarity on timetables or layoffs. Many walked away feeling their hopes were dashed. There was a lot of talk of storytelling and coming together, and Ellison was dismissive of reports of huge layoffs. Yet one person who attended the session adds, "We don't believe him." Like, again, I'm not all that knowledgeable about the finances of all this stuff. Okay, I'm not going to pretend that I am. But based off of everything that I've read, it's just not feasible that David Ellison and Paramount are buying Warner Brothers, taking on the insane amounts of debt that they're taking on. It's just not feasible that they did all of that. And then they're not going to have a bunch of layoffs in order to make the overall company more profitable. Like, apparently that's just not going to end up being a thing. Like, that's just not possible. So yeah, I would not believe David Ellison if he says, like, "Don't worry guys, we're not going to lay off a bunch of people." Like, again, hopefully I'm wrong, but based off of everything that I've read, it's like, yeah, they are. Okay. And then I guess on another positive note, another exec says that Ellison came across as passionate and very much a lover of movies. The CEO says he envisions the combined company spending more on the creation of content than any other media company. Ellison has reiterated that the merged company would release at least 30 theatrical films per year from the combined studios, and he talked of having one streaming platform into one company, while also saying the plan was to keep both studio lots. He was confident and well-spoken, according to sources. So, it wasn't all doom and gloom, I guess, but it's also like the whole thing of him saying, like, "Oh, we're releasing 30 movies," and it's like, well, that's about as many movies as Paramount and Warner Brothers already released per year. So it's this idea that Paramount buying Warner Brothers is leading to more movies. It's like, that's just, the whole 30 movies thing is kind of a smokescreen. It's like they're like trying to trick you into thinking that they're doing something good. And yeah, it's like, okay, cool, he likes movies. That doesn't mean that this isn't going to lead to a bunch of people losing their jobs. Like, it doesn't mean that all of the other negative stuff, politically, that I won't get into here isn't also present. Like, I don't know. Like, there just doesn't, I just don't think that there are going to be a bunch of positive stuff that comes out of David Ellison taking over Warner Brothers. But we'll see. Next story. A lot of stuff is going on with Supergirl. I'll be honest, I don't know what to make of it. Let's just get into it. So, Supergirl adds third composer as questions continue around the film. Warner Brothers has sent out a new press release for Supergirl, and one behind-the-scenes detail stands out more than anything else. Claudia Sarn is now listed as the film's composer. That means Supergirl has undergone yet another musical change, making Sarn the third composer tied to the movie. Ramin Djawadi had previously been reported for the project, and Tom Hulkenberg, which is Junkie XL, was later linked as well, before this latest Warner Brothers update put Sarn in the role. Sarn is known for composing The Book of Eli, Dias de Gracia, End of Watch, and 999. She's also worked in the music department on 26 episodes of Animal Kingdom. So, again, I don't really know, like, whether or not composers being changed for a movie like this is a sign of things being messy behind the scenes. Like, I don't think it's normal, I will say. Like, I follow a lot of movie news and stuff like that, and it's not like I'm always hearing that composers are changing behind the scenes. And obviously, a musical score for the movie is very important. Like, music can be the end-all be-all when it comes to scenes being emotionally impacting, action scenes feeling thrilling, Like and I'll say this, one of my complaints when I was watching the trailer for Supergirl is that I'm like so sick of movies being overly reliant on scores or on licensed music. Like I'm so sick of, at least in trailers. In movies, if it plays well, I'm not going to be mad at it. But especially in trailers, I'm like, if you want to sell me on your movie, sell me on your score. Sell me on a great original score that you've composed for Supergirl. And hearing all this news now, it's all like, oh, so that's why you were using Blondie. It's because you didn't have a great score to sell the movie, or to sell the movie to me with. So yeah, I don't know. And by the way, this is also just another reason why I'm very dubious when it comes to test screening reports, because there have been reports coming out saying that the movie was getting positive test screenings. Right? There have been reports saying that audiences are actually liking the movie. But this kind of just goes to show that test screening reports are kind of nonsense, because oftentimes, if you get a negative test screening, well, the movie can change. So whatever those test screening people thought are kind of irrelevant. Maybe they fixed it. If you hear reports of a positive test screening, well, the movie can change. Maybe, they incompetently make the movie worse. And so those positive test screenings might be invalid. So it's like, maybe the music that Tom Holkenborg or whatever the fuck, maybe he composed great music that tested positively. And then James Gunn or the director of the movie incompetently were like, well, we don't like it and we're going to change it anyways. And now maybe Claudia Sarn is going to make ass music that leads to the movie being bad. This honestly just goes to show as well my point of, don't pay attention to test screening stuff, because they're not indicative of the final product. Like the point in time where you should start paying attention to reviews and stuff is when film critics are actually able to watch the final cut of the movie, like a week or whatever before the movie comes out. But yeah, we'll see. Obviously not a good sign, but I am also not sure how bad of a sign it is. So next story. Sticking with Supergirl, I kind of wanted to just talk about some articles that I saw that, I don't know, there's a weird narrative that I feel like is happening, it's always been around, but it's just like this weird narrative around James Gunn's DCU and people just wanting to like assume things about how, David Zaslav and Warner Brothers feel about James Gunn's DCU, about how David Ellison feels about James Gunn's DCU. And I just kind of want to go through a little thing here to maybe like give you guys a good way to, engage with your media. So, okay. If we look at this article here from Cosmic Book News, it says, James Gunn Supergirl called a pricey risk. Warner Brothers nervous? And then it's talking about an article from Puck. So it says here, Puck wrote, despite Warner Brothers' successful run in 2025, that's certainly an optimistic statement for a studio with a bunch of pricey risks, like Supergirl's Tom Cruise as Digger and J.J. Abrams' The Great Beyond on its 26 slate. So then the Cosmic Book News takes that from the article and says, Puck is essentially suggesting that Warner Brothers sees Supergirl as a financial risk, not a sure thing. And it isn't being framed as a breakout hit. It's being treated by the industry like a movie that could easily disappoint. So, if you watch the Puck article, or if you read the Puck article, which we'll get to later, they don't say that. Like, if you read the Puck article, it's saying that it's just like the writer's opinion. It's an opinion piece. It's not him saying that Warner Brothers themselves are like super worried about Supergirl. Okay, let's go to this other article here. This one I think is even worse. It says James Gunn's Supergirl called a pricey risk by Warner Brothers. It's like, again, we'll get to the actual articles themselves, but that's just not true. Warner Brothers continues to view James Gunn's Supergirl risk as a significant concern, despite the film's role in shaping the future of the DC universe. Industry insiders tell Puck News that the upcoming Supergirl movie, scheduled for 2026, is considered one of the studio's most costly and uncertain projects. This perception comes amid recent corporate changes following Warner Brothers Discovery's sale to new owners, Paramount and Skydance. So, I just want to be clear here. When we read the Puck News articles that, by the way, I believe these two articles are referencing, because it should be noted that I haven't actually, like, it's annoying when articles they'll write a report about an article and then they don't link to the original article. So it's just like tedious for people to, or at least for me, to be able to like go find the original reporting, because I always try to read the original reporting as much as I can. And so because I didn't link to anything specific, I just like tried to find what are the Puck articles that these quotes are from and that are talking about Supergirl. So I found this article where the article is talking about how Warner Brothers had a really good 2025, but how they should still be worried about their 2026 slate, especially because they had a bad 2024 slate. So in the article, they're talking about how the coming attractions, right? This is Warner Brothers' upcoming 2026 slate. The question is whether 2025 was a validation of Warner Brothers' strategy or a bit of a fluke that will be exposed next year and beyond. Zaslav went from interviewing their replacements in March to renewing their deals in October, but the 2026 slate of 16 theatrical movies features more than a few red flags, and so they talk about movies like Wuthering Heights, which, to be fair, was really successful. Then they talk about The Bride, which was not, which was a massive flop. And then we have to wait and see how all these other movies do. And then, yes, in one of the red flags, they have Supergirl, June 2026, lower budget DC with Millie Alcock starring. So, again, just to be crystal clear, this article is not saying we have sources, and our sources are telling us that Warner Brothers is super worried about Supergirl. The article just doesn't say that. People can fact check me, right? Obviously. Anyways, then we get into the other article that I believe they're referencing, where this is from Puck again, and they have a little section here called Quote of the Week, and one dishonorable mention, right, a quote that they want to argue against is when I believe it's one of the Warner Brothers executives, when they were talking about The Bride flopping, they said, even the 1927 Yankees had 44 losses that season, right? Basically talking about how them just brushing off The Bride as a flop is not smart, because there might be a bunch of other movies that end up flopping in 2026, right? So if you read the paragraph here, Jeff Goldstein, the Warner Brothers distribution chief, downplaying The Bride's dead-on arrival $7 million domestic debut on a $92 million budget. WB says $80 million, with a bizarre analogy to the most dominant baseball team of all time. Despite Warner Brothers' successful run in 2025, that's certainly an optimistic statement for a studio with a bunch of pricey risks like Supergirl, Tom Cruise's Digger, and J.J. Abrams' The Great Beyond. So, again, this is an opinion piece by the guy writing this article. This is not what those other articles are suggesting, which is Warner Brothers is, Puck News reported that they have sources that are telling them that Warner Brothers is super worried about Supergirl. Like, it's just not what those Puck articles are saying. Now, just to be crystal clear, am I saying that Warner Brothers isn't worried about Supergirl? No. I could absolutely imagine, a world where David Zaslav and or David Ellison are like going up to James Gunn and they're like, hey, look, this Supergirl movie was a risk. It better deliver. It better make money. Right? Like these risky movies like Supergirl and Clayface, they better make money or else, we might make the decision to make you leave. Like, that's certainly possible. That being said, it's also certainly possible that they're not idiots. Because, and this is at least my opinion, I think that if you're going to get into the business of creating a new cinematic universe, whether it be the DCU or the MCU, which is kind of, trying to rebuild itself after their failure with the multiverse saga, you have to understand that you're going to have a few disappointing or movies that flop. Like, you have to understand that. Like, if Marvel is intelligent and they have their heads on screwed straight, I don't think they should be viewing Thunderbolts as a failure. I don't think they should be viewing Fantastic Four First Steps as a failure. I think they should view those movies as, hey, we made good movies. The people who watch those movies generally like them, and they are two good first steps in getting the audience's trust back. Because I think those two movies being good is going to end up leading into hopefully a good Spider-Man Brand New Day, and you will have created a steady ramp to, if Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars can hit, then I think the MCU might quote unquote be back. And I do think that Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four are important steps in that equation, because if you just have, big event movies like Spider-Man and Doomsday being good and everything else around it is lame, then that's not going to quote unquote bring back the MCU. It can't just be the event movies that are good and make money and then people just don't care about the other characters. That's not, you bringing the MCU back to where it was. And I think you should have a similar mindset with the DCU. Like, you should understand that if you want to build up a universe and you want to get to a point where characters or side characters can have solo movies and make money, it's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows at first. You're going to make a Superman movie that's successful, but then you're also going to make a Supergirl movie that might end up flopping or breaking even. Clayface is not going to be a massive hit. But if Supergirl comes out and it's great, and if Clayface comes out and it's great, and then that could lead into Man of Tomorrow or Wonder Woman or Brave and the Bold, that's also great. And audiences have maybe gone back and watched those other movies on streaming or PVOD or whatever. And then you've built up a trust with your audience and they're excited about DC and comic book movies again. Then you're setting yourself up for a super successful cinematic universe in the future. So, like, anyways, I say all of this to just say that, like, all of these things are possible, right? It's entirely possible that Paramount and Warner Brothers are like they're like very worried about Supergirl. It's also entirely possible that they understand what they're doing, and that even if Supergirl flops, if it's a good movie, that they might see that value in it. I'm not going to pretend like I know what they're thinking. And I don't understand. It's really weird that articles like that and like people on Twitter and YouTube, they're just like so invested in creating a narrative that James Gunn's in trouble. David Ellison's definitely going to kick out James Gunn. Even before David Ellison was there, the narrative was like, Warner Brothers is going to kick out James Gunn. His universe is dead on arrival. And we just don't know that that's true. And you can have that opinion, but my only request is that you base it in reality. Like, can we actually talk about the real things that are being said? Anyways, let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. All right, next story. So, speaking of Paramount not being a good company that I'm excited by, they made the bizarre decision to put The Legend of Aang, the upcoming Avatar: The Last Airbender movie, they moved it from theatrical to streaming. And the director of the movie went on Instagram and had this to say. Aang movie is officially wrapped. We screened the final film for the crew and celebrated the end of a 4-year journey. Now it waits in limbo until its release in October. So first of all, that's really interesting that the movie is, I guess, done. Like, I assume when they say it's wrapped, they mean that all of the, like, I mean, it's an animated movie, so I don't even know I don't know how the terms work, but it's like, basically like all the post-production is done on the movie and it's just done and they're waiting for October to release it. Maybe it's because they want to release it around the same time as the new show. I don't know. By the way, I have no idea when the new show is coming out either. Anyways, I've never worked on an Avatar project that was easy, and this was no different. But it was worth it. I'm so proud of everyone who was a part of this and the amazing thing we built together. The movie is amazing. That might not mean much coming from the director. I might have some bias, but I feel the need to put that out there. The recent decision to move us from theatrical to streaming might give the impression that the quality wasn't sufficient, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. This movie deserves to be seen on a big screen. Can't wait for you all to see it. So, yeah, we have the director of the movie basically coming out and saying, like, listen, we made a good movie. It should be released in theaters. This deserves to be seen in theaters. And I don't understand why they did it, why they made the decision. Or, well, she's not saying that. I'm saying that. Yeah, I think it's such a weird decision because, I mean, look, is an Avatar: The Last Airbender animated movie going to make $1 billion? No. But, like, could I see the return of Aang and the original gang, them as adults? Could I see that movie making, like, $300-400 million? Absolutely. And then guess what? After you release the movie, even if it's not like a massive blockbuster hit, at least you've made some money. And then it's going to be able to do its thing on streaming. Like, this is just such a weird decision on so many levels. And, like, it kind of goes against David Ellison's whole thing of, hey, guys, we're devoted to theatrical releases. When we buy Warner Brothers, we're going to be putting so many movies in theaters. And it's like, well, I'm looking over here at what you're doing with Paramount, and you're taking an Avatar: The Last Airbender movie and you're putting it on streaming? What? Like, what are you guys doing? So, you know, I guess it's kind of like a Batgirl situation, where if you look at Batgirl, you know, all the people involved in the project were like, hey, we made a good movie. I don't understand why they're not releasing it. At least with this situation, we're going to be able to watch this movie in October, and we're going to be able to go, hey, David Ellison, you're an idiot. Why didn't you put this in theaters? Or we're going to go, listen, I don't like the guy, but this is not a theatrical movie. We'll see. But I don't know. I still think that from a financial perspective, it just doesn't make a whole ton of sense to not put it in theaters. But who knows? Not me. Who cares? All right. Final story of the day. It's the title show, or it's the story from the title of the stream. Pierre, he is joining Superman sequel, Man of Tomorrow. Very funny by The Hollywood Reporter, because James Gunn's out here like, guys, stop calling it a sequel. It's not a sequel, guys. It's like, shut up. It's obviously a sequel. But But yeah, Aaron Pierre is going to be in it. In brightest day, in blackest night, Aaron Pierre will face the Man of Steel's might. So this is another thing about this article. It has a bunch of weird bits in it where I'm not really sure if I should take it that seriously or if it's trying to be indicative of something or something else. But because it's interesting, it says Aaron Pierre will face the Man of Steel's might. Is that the Hollywood Reporter indicating that there's going to be like a fight scene between Superman and Jon Stewart? I don't know. That might be a stretch. That might be me looking too deep into things. Anyways, reading on. Pierre, who is already playing Green Lantern hero Jon Stewart in HBO's upcoming DC series Lanterns, is joining the cast of Man of Tomorrow, James Gunn's sequel to 2025 Superman. This movie is due to bring back much of the cast, Rachel Brosnahan, Skylar Gisondo, and Sarah Sampaio among them. Now, again, this is another line that I'm not sure if I'm reading too much into it, but it says, heroes returning include Hawkgirl, played by Isabella Merced, and the Engineer, played by Maria Gabriela de Faria. As we all know, the Engineer was not a hero in Superman. Does that mean that she's gonna have a character turn in Man of Tomorrow? Is the Hollywood Reporter spoiling that? I don't know. It might also be a matter of perspective, because if Man of Tomorrow is going to be like a buddy cop sort of thing with Superman and Lex Luthor, then it seems like Lex Luthor himself is going to be positioned as one of the protagonists. And so does that mean that Lex Luthor himself might be seen as a hero in the movie? And then by default, the Engineer is seen as a more heroic figure in the movie? That is entirely possible. So I don't know. I wouldn't think too deeply about those lines, but I figured they would be interesting to point out. But yeah, as far as Aaron Pierre being in Man of Tomorrow, I think it makes a lot of sense, obviously, right? Like, Guy Gardner was in the first movie. If you're gonna bring in a Green Lantern into the second movie, why not make it one of your main Green Lanterns now that they've properly been introduced in an HBO Max series? Now, I've seen some people being like, oh my gosh, this must mean that Hal Jordan dies in Lanterns because he's not in this article. Oh no, Kyle Chandler, they're going to murder my boy. Look, is it entirely possible that Hal Jordan dies in Lanterns? Of course. Like, the trailer is very heavily teasing at that possibility. That being said, this article is not proof of that. You know what I mean? Like, it's entirely possible that as of right now, they just haven't worked out the contract with Kyle Chandler and that James Gunn intends on bringing him in. It's entirely possible that at the end of Lanterns, you know, Hal Jordan flies off into space. The Guardians of Oa, or whatever the blue people are called. They call him for something off in space, and so he flies off and he leaves Jon Stewart in charge of Precinct Earth. Like, that's entirely possible. Maybe the character just isn't in it, you know? Like, it kind of goes back to those early MCU days where we were like, how come the Captain America isn't showing up in the Thor movie? And it's like, I guess sometimes they're just not showing up in each other's projects, right? Like, Hal Jordan might just not be in this movie. It's not necessarily because he's dead. So yeah, it's exciting stuff. It's also, I will say, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out because, you know, Lanterns is a very different tone, at least judging by the trailer, from a lot of the other DCU stuff. Like, you know, it's not a complaint that I've had, but a lot of people have had the complaint that a lot of the DCU stuff feels too James Gunn-y, right? It has the similar humor, similar tone. It's not. I'm not gonna gaslight people and say, like, I don't know what you're talking about. I obviously know what they're talking about, but it's not something that has bothered me. I think that the DCU projects have felt varied enough, but it'll be interesting that Lanterns is clearly going to be a departure from that, and so we're going to see Jon Stewart in a gritty, grounded HBO original series and Lanterns, and then he's going to be in the Man of Tomorrow, which presumably is going to be lighter in tone, more comedic, yada yada yada. And so we're going to see the promise of the DCU, which is, hey, we're going to have projects that feel totally distinct from one another, have different tones, different creative visions, but they're still going to be in a unified world, and they're still going to cross over with one another. So it'll be really interesting to see how far into the grounded grittiness Lanterns decides to go, and if that contrast of Superman, it's going to be interesting to see if Jon Stewart can go from Lanterns to Man of Tomorrow, and it feels believable. And I will say, if Lanterns does end up being as grounded as it looks, which I will say, like, I don't think the show is going to be that grounded at the end of the day. Like, they already showed Hal Jordan flying. They showed him using his ring. So it's like all the people saying like, oh, they're not even going to use the rings. We're not going to even see Green Lantern powers. It's like, I think we are. Like, I think that they're hiding a lot in that teaser. So like, at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be as drastic of a situation, right, of Aaron Pierre showing up in Man of Tomorrow. Like, I think it'll make sense. I think it'll be more of a tonal shift than anything. But it will be interesting to see if that tonal shift will then make the argument against bringing Robert Pattinson's Batman into the DCU make less sense. Because a lot of the arguments so far have been, well, the Batman is grounded, and his world isn't fantastical, and he wouldn't fit in. And also the tone. I mean, the tonal shift, it would just feel weird, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, well, if Lanterns is as dark and gritty and grim as it seems, and Jon Stewart is able to work in both tones, will that lessen the argument against Robert Pattinson coming in? Because I honestly think that the only real reason why it's not happening is because of Matt Reeves and James Gunn wanting to respect Matt Reeves' vision or whatever. I really think that that's the only reason why it's not happening. Like, I think it could work if they wanted to, but we'll see. Those are all my thoughts, and that's it for the video. I have nothing else to say to any of you, so leave me alone. But before you do that, be sure to leave a comment down in the comment section down below. Subscribe if you like the video. Like the video if you liked it. Dislike it if you disliked it. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.